Hello, I'm Gil Zilkha. Welcome to my channel, Essential Classical Music, where we look at the best recordings of the standard classical music repertoire. This video is taken out of my larger video on the great conductors and their best recordings. I hope you enjoy it. Now let's talk about, way back at the beginning we were talking about in the early 20th century you had the Toscanini-Fort Wengler debates. In the stereo recording era, you had the Karajan versus Bernstein debates. Although it wasn't quite the same because it's not like they were, diametrically opposed to each other in terms of philosophy and also in terms of the repertoire. There wasn't. They really kind of had their places more. Although there was some. I'm actually going to start off for Bernstein with a composer that both conductors did, in fact, both specialize in, and that's Sibelius. This is his 1960s Fifth Symphony with the New York Philharmonic, and this is just amazingly exciting, virtuosic, as good a fifth as you can imagine hearing, and I think maybe the first place to start if you want to hear Lenny in his heyday in New York, really just knocking your socks off with incredible interpretation and playing. For Bernstein, you also, now this is where there's not any overlap with Karajan. You also, of course, have to look at his interpretations of American repertoire. Nobody did it better. And maybe the first disc to start with is this one, the Copland, the disc of Copland orchestral works, highlighted, of course, by his masterpiece Appalachian Spring, also featuring Billy the Kid, Rodeo. We're talking American works now, and the Fanfare for the Common Man. Bernstein just obviously knew the score very well. He was a friend of the composer. Everything is just wonderfully highlighted. That beautiful American landscape is just wonderfully painted by Bernstein and his musicians, and just like his recordings of Ives and Harris and others, Bernstein's Copland recordings are not to be missed. Now, the composer, however, that probably you probably associate with Bernstein more than any. His first love, you might say. Literally, he wanted to be buried with the Fifth Symphony Adagietto, or he was buried with it on his heart, and that's Gustav Mahler. Bernstein gave us two cycles. One was a true cycle with the New York Philharmonic in the 60s, and then you had a more patched together cycle on Deutsche Grammophon. And for Bernstein, you really can't go wrong with his Mahler. He was Bernstein was a very emotive conductor, which lent itself to Mahler. Sometimes people would say that he went overboard in the Fifth Symphony, for example, you might say, or the First. But I think they're all worth hearing, and they're all proverbially shelf-worthy. But one that I would recommend to really get a sense of Bernstein's way with Mahler and really pushing things to the limits, particularly, is this one, the Sixth Symphony with the Vienna Philharmonic from the 80s. Wonderfully recorded, just real full, real detailed, and just a shattering, powerful experience. HS milks it, and like I was saying with the Barbaroli version, prepare to get your socks knocked off. It's just a real powerful experience and a wonderful way to sample Bernstein's Mahler. His first version with the New York Philharmonic from the 60s is also really powerful. It's sort of a debate between the two. I sort of tend towards this one, and if nothing else, you do have more of a present, powerful sound quality. Now, another composer that he was very associated with championing is Shostakovich. He had a lot of really good Shostakovich interpretations. I think one that really sticks out is this recording he made of the Seventh Symphony with the Chicago Symphony. This is another digital recording, so it sounds fantastic. All the emotions are milked. It's just no stone is left unturned. It's just incredibly powerful, virtuosic, beautiful sounding, a fairly shattering experience, really. So a wonderful way to hear Shostakovich and Bernstein conducting. Bernstein also was a lover of the classics, very good in Haydn and very good in Mozart. Bernstein had this great sense of rhythm, and he was a composer himself, so he understood the structure and the proportion as well. So I've recommended this before as my top recommendation for this coupling. His version of the last two Mozart symphonies, 40 and 41, with the Vienna Philharmonic is really top notch, especially 41. Again, that rhythmic vitality works wonderfully, especially in that final movement. I also want to recommend, while we're sticking with Mozart, Bernstein was very good with voices, very good with choirs. And this is an excellent recording. Again, a digital recording from the 80s. It's with the Bavarian Radio Symphony Orchestra and Chorus. And this is the Mozart Great Mass in C minor. It starts off with the dee-dum bum bum be-dum bum bum be-dum bum 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 ba-dee-dum. And it has everything you could want in a mass. It's just a really well-written choral work, one of the great standards of choral writing. And Bernstein just does a wonderful job with it. It's very dramatic, very powerful, but nothing overly done. This is a work that features the soprano. You have a wonderful soprano solo from Arlene Auger. Another one of really the reference recordings that Bernstein left behind for us. And then finally for Bernstein, I want to mention another composer that I think really fit him very well, and that's Robert Schumann. His set of the Schumann symphonies, and obviously, this is another debate with Bernstein. A lot of people prefer his earlier 60s New York recordings, which I do too. I think they're very good. But a lot of them kind of poo-poo the later ones in Vienna as being too too slow or too thick. I guess it depends on which repertoire you're looking at, but I don't even think that necessarily holds sway all the time, certainly not with his Mozart recordings. But for Schumann, he does gild that lily, but it's a lily that deserves to be gilded because it's Schumann. It's very emotional music, and he brings this character to each symphony where especially with Schumann, who was such a poet as a composer, so evocative in what he wrote. You want someone to bring that out, and you get that with Bernstein. Each of the symphonies, I really think, is really wonderfully done in his hands. Thanks for watching. I want to wish you all a great day and happy listening.